The wind moved gently across the dry plain, carrying the warm dust of Eden 43. This was not an easy world to live on. The sky was pale orange, the sun was harsh, and water was precious. People here built small lives out of big dreams. Jared Cole stood near the fence of his small ranch, watching his animals move slowly toward the feeding trays. They were quiet, soft-skinned creatures made in labs many years ago. Jared liked them because they never complained, never argued, and never looked at him with pity. He was a quiet man. He lived alone. Years ago, he and his wife had tried to build a family, but the doctors told them he could not have children. The sickness in his body was small but strong, and no medicine had worked. His wife had left for the inner colonies long ago. He stayed. The ranch was all he had. Every morning was the same. Jared fixed machines, fed animals, checked the sky for dust storms, and returned home. His life was not exciting, but it was safe, and it made sense. He never expected anything to change. But that day, everything did. The government transport route passed a few kilometers from Jared's land. He used it sometimes to carry animal feed and spare parts. That morning, the sky was hot and still. Jared loaded his old Rover truck with crates and started driving toward the supply hub. As he moved closer to the route, he saw something unusual. The track scanners on his Rover beeped softly. There was a weak energy signal coming from the old mining fields, a place abandoned many years ago when the ore ran out. Jared frowned. Those scanners didn't usually lie. Curiosity pulled him forward. He slowed down the Rover and turned toward the signal. The ground grew rough. The sun burned hotter. In the distance, half buried in sand, he saw broken mining towers and the empty shells of drone pods. He had passed this place before, but today it felt different. There was movement. At first, he thought it was just an old machine still running. But as he came closer, he saw a human figure. A small girl, maybe 15 or 16, pushing a heavy drone cart with shaking arms. She was thin, wearing a dirty gray uniform, her hair tied roughly behind her neck. Jared stopped the Rover. His heart felt tight. There should not be anyone here. This mine was supposed to be closed. He climbed out of the Rover and called out gently, "Hey, you there. What are you doing here?" The girl froze. Her hands tightened on the drone cart. She looked ready to run. Jared could see the fear in her eyes. "It's all right," he said again, keeping his voice soft. "I'm not here to hurt you." She didn't answer. Instead, she stepped back slowly, her bare feet stirring the dust. Jared noticed the small tag on her sleeve. It was from a labor contract camp, an old program that had been shut down years ago. Child labor was not allowed anymore, at least not officially. Something inside him grew cold. "Where are the others?" he asked. She shook her head. "Gone," she whispered. Her voice was dry and tired. "All gone." Jared looked around. The towers were empty. The machines were half buried. There were no guards, no workers, no vehicles. Just this girl alone under the burning sun. "How long have you been here?" She didn't know. She only said, "Long time." Jared knew he couldn't just leave her there. She looked weak, tired, and scared. He opened the Rover's back door and said softly, "Come with me. I'll get you water and food. You can rest." She didn't move. Her eyes narrowed. She didn't trust easily. Jared understood that feeling. "I won't force you," he said. "But this place isn't safe. There's a storm coming. Look." He pointed at the sky. In the far distance, a long line of red dust was rising. Eden 43 storms were not something a person could survive without shelter. The girl finally stepped forward. Her feet moved carefully as if she expected a trick. Jared helped her climb into the Rover, handed her a water can, and watched as she drank with shaking hands. "My name's Jared," he said. "What's yours?" She looked at him unsure. Then she whispered, "Leora." Back at the ranch, Jared showed her the washroom, gave her clean clothes, and made some warm soup. She sat at his small wooden table like a bird ready to fly away at any second. Her shoulders were tense. She didn't say much, but Jared didn't push. He knew some wounds didn't need loud words. He just talked gently about the animals, the ranch, the storms. Slowly, she relaxed a little. As night came, Jared checked the security fence around his ranch. The storm was close now. The sky glowed with red sand. Inside the house, the lights were soft and warm. He gave her a small blanket and showed her the spare room. She sat on the edge of the bed. "Why?" she asked suddenly. "Why what?" Jared replied, "Why help me?" Jared paused. The truth was simple. He couldn't have children of his own, But he couldn't ignore a lost child either, because no one should be left alone out there, he said finally. Not on this world. That night Jared couldn't sleep. He lay awake, listening to the sound of the wind beating against the walls. His mind kept returning to the image of the empty mine and the girl's tired face. Who had left her there? Why? He walked to the workshop to keep himself busy. There was an old terraforming core there, a big silent machine that once was meant to make the planet green. It had stopped working years before Jared was even born. No one had managed to start it again. It sat there like a dead heart. Leora appeared at the doorway. She was wearing the spare clothes now, a bit too big for her. Her eyes were wide as she looked at the machine. "What's that?" she asked. "An old dream," Jared answered. "They said it would make this world bloom. It never did." She walked closer. Her hand brushed the dusty metal. The machine gave a soft click. Then a faint blue line lit up across its surface. Jared blinked. "That shouldn't happen," he said softly. Leora pulled her hand back. "I didn't do anything," she whispered. The machine hummed again. For the first time in decades, it responded. Jared stepped closer, amazed. "How did you do that?" "I don't know," she said, almost afraid. "It just woke up." He quickly checked the old monitor. The system showed active signals, energy moving, connections forming with old satellite networks. It was impossible, but it was happening. "You have some kind of connection with it," Jared said slowly. "This machine has ignored everyone for years, but it listens to you." She shook her head. "I'm just me." But Jared saw the way the blue lights followed her movement, like a machine recognizing a voice it had been waiting for. Hours passed. Jared ran careful checks to make sure nothing dangerous was happening. The storm outside roared against the walls, but inside the ranch something extraordinary was unfolding. The machine was alive again. Leora sat on a stool near the door, watching quietly as he worked. She still didn't trust the world, but she was no longer as afraid as before. Jared noticed that. "Do you know anything about this?" he asked gently. She hesitated. Then she whispered, "I remember a lab. A long time ago. They said I was special. Then they sent me away to work, to hide." Jared's hands froze. A lab? That could mean government programs or private projects. Things people in the outer colonies rarely saw. "Special how?" "I don't know," she said. "But they said the planet would listen to me." Jared exhaled slowly. This was bigger than he thought. Near midnight, as the storm raged, Jared checked the sky screen. Several faint signals blinked high above the planet. Satellites, someone or something had noticed the machine's reactivation. His quiet life was no longer quiet. He looked at Leora. She had fallen asleep on the stool, the soft blue light wrapping her like a gentle blanket. For the first time in years, Jared felt something new, a quiet sense of purpose, like he was meant to be part of something larger than himself. He covered her with the blanket, switched the security locks, and sat beside the humming machine. Outside, the storm howled. Inside, the future was waking up. As the night deepened, Jared stared at the soft blue glow. Eden 43 had been a forgotten world, a place where dreams came to die in the dust. But now something had changed. A lost girl had touched a dead machine, and it had answered. Jared didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew this: he would protect her, and together they might just change everything. The next morning, the storm was gone. The world outside the ranch was covered in a thin layer of red sand. The air was quiet, as if the land itself was holding its breath. Inside the workshop, the old terraforming core still glowed softly. Blue lines of light ran across its surface like rivers of energy. Jared Cole stared at it, still amazed. Last night it had been a dead machine. Now it was awake. Leora sat near the table, holding a cup of warm water. She looked stronger than yesterday, though her eyes still carried shadows of fear. She had been alone for too long. But here, something inside her had changed. Jared checked the monitor again. Numbers scrolled fast across the screen. "The satellites up there, they're watching," he said softly. She looked at him with wide eyes. "Who are they?" "Could be the government. Could be something else," Jared answered. But when this machine turned on, they noticed. "They'll come." He didn't have to wait long. Around noon, a soft beep echoed from the security system. Jared looked at the screen. A transport ship was landing near the edge of the ranch. The dust rose like smoke around it. Leora's hands tightened around her cup. "They're here for me," she whispered. Jared didn't answer, but he felt the same in his gut. The transport doors opened slowly and a group of people stepped out. Their uniforms were clean, dark blue, and they carried data tablets instead of weapons. Their leader was a woman with sharp eyes and a calm face. "Mr. Cole," she said through the speaker, "we need to talk." Jared walked toward the gate. "What about?" She smiled politely. "About the child you found, and about the machine you woke up." They met at the fence. She introduced herself as Agent Voss from the Planetary Development Bureau. She spoke softly like someone who expected people to trust her easily. But Jared had lived long enough to know that calm voices often hid sharp intentions. "We've been waiting for this core to activate for decades," Voss said. "It needs a special key, a genetic signature. And that girl has it." Leora stood behind Jared, holding the fence with both hands. She didn't like the way Voss looked at her. It felt like she was not a person but a tool. "She's not a key," Jared said slowly. "She's a human being," Voss tilted her head. "We don't want to harm her. We want to help her. She can do something no one else can. With her we can bring this world to life," Leora whispered. "They said that before. At the lab. Then they sent me away." The agent's eyes flickered just for a second. Jared saw it. There was more to this than she was saying. That night, Jared couldn't rest. He knew the Bureau would not simply walk away. Leora had become important to them. But she was not ready to trust anyone, and honestly, neither was he. He went to the barn where the old communication dish was stored. For years it had been useless. Now with the core active, it came alive again. Jared sent out a private signal to a few old friends, other ranchers, miners, and settlers who lived far from the main colony. They were people like him, quiet, stubborn, and loyal. A few hours later, small lights began to appear on the horizon. Old transport trucks, farm vehicles, even mining crawlers approached slowly through the sand. These were not soldiers, but they were people who had each other's backs. Leora watched from the porch. "Who are they?" "My people," Jared said with a small smile. "They know how to build, how to fight storms, how to survive. And they don't like being pushed around." By dawn, the ranch was buzzing with quiet activity. People brought old shield generators, communication towers, and food supplies. They set up around the ranch like they were preparing for a long season. Leora walked among them, shy at first. But the settlers greeted her kindly. An older woman handed her a warm blanket. A miner showed her how to fix a broken water pipe. For the first time in her life, Leora felt like she belonged somewhere. She also began to learn more about the machine. The terraforming core responded to her touch. It showed her maps of the planet, dry land, water veins deep underground, and hidden systems built by the first settlers. The world wasn't dead. It was sleeping. Agent Voss returned with a new offer. "You don't need to resist us," she told Jared through the fence. "If the girl comes with us, we can build real cities here, schools, hospitals. We can make this a home." Jared didn't raise his voice. "You could have done that years ago, but you didn't. You left us here to dry." Voss's calm smile faded a little. "Mr. Cole, if you keep resisting, you'll only make this harder for everyone." "The girl belongs to the project. She belongs to herself," Jared replied. The agent left without saying more, but Jared knew she would be back. And next time she might not be so polite. That night the stars were bright. Leora sat on the porch, hugging her knees. Jared joined her, handing her a cup of warm tea. "Are you afraid?" he asked gently. She nodded. "They'll take me away." "They always do." "Not this time," Jared said firmly. "Why?" she whispered. "Why are you helping me?" Jared looked at the sky. "Because I know what it feels like to lose something you care about. I lost the chance to have a family, but maybe I can protect one." Leora's throat tightened. For the first time in years, she felt safe. The following day, something unexpected happened. The core released a strong pulse into the ground. The ranchers rushed out to see it. In the distance, tiny green shoots began to rise from the red dust. "It's growing," one of the settlers whispered. The machine wasn't just talking to the satellites. It was changing the land itself. Eden 43 was waking up. The pulse also reached far beyond the ranch. Distant colonies, alien monitoring stations, and hidden networks all received the signal. Leora's gift was no longer a secret. At sunset, the sky filled with lights. More ships were approaching, some from the Bureau, some from unknown sources. The settlers gathered around Jared. They had no heavy weapons, but they had courage. They built their lives with their hands, and they would protect what mattered. Jared stood on a small platform and spoke to them. "I'm not a leader," he said, "but I know one thing. If we give her up, they'll use her like a machine. If we stand together, we can give her a choice. We can give this world a chance to be more than just sand." The crowd cheered softly, their faces hard and determined. These were ordinary people. But ordinary people, when united, were stronger than any single power. The Bureau's ships landed again. But this time, Jared wasn't alone. Agent Voss stepped out, surprised to see dozens of settlers standing beside him. "Mr. Cole," she said slowly, "this is not wise." "What's not wise," Jared answered, "is thinking we'll just hand her over." Before she could respond, the ground shook gently. The green field around the ranch spread wider, glowing softly under the sky. The terraforming core had connected fully to the planet. Leora stepped forward. The machine's light reflected in her eyes. She wasn't hiding anymore. Voss raised her hand, trying to reason. "You don't understand what you're doing. This power, it's not your power," Leora said firmly. "It belongs to the planet." To everyone, a long silence followed. The settlers stood behind her. The machine hummed like a living heart. The wind carried the scent of new growth, something Eden 43 hadn't known for decades. The Bureau didn't attack. They couldn't. The core was now connected to the entire planet's system. Any wrong move could end everything. Instead, Agent Voss lowered her hand. "Then what do you want, Leora?" she asked. Leora took a breath. "I want this world to live. I want the people here to have a home, not a project." For the first time, Voss didn't have a quick answer. In the days that followed, everything changed. The Bureau was forced to talk, not command. The settlers formed their own council to protect the core and Leora's rights. Experts from the main colony came not as owners but as guests. Green fields began to spread faster each day. Old water channels opened again. The land that was once silent was now full of hope. Jared watched it all with quiet pride. He had spent years alone, believing his life was too small to matter. But now, because of one simple choice, to help a lost girl, he had become part of something far bigger. Leora no longer looked like the frightened girl from the mine. She walked with her head high. People listened to her, not because she had power, but because she cared about the world they shared. One evening, as the twin suns set behind the hills, Jared sat on the porch. Leora joined him, holding 2 cups of warm tea. "Do you think it will last?" she asked. Jared smiled. "Yes, because this time it's not built by programs or orders. It's built by people, by us." She leaned against the wooden post, watching the green fields move gently in the wind. For the first time in her life, she felt free.